Okay, this video is called Advice to Parents. Okay, I'm an old guy now. I'm 63 years old. I've raised a bunch of kids. I've seen what's happened to, my kids, to kids of all these other parents. And I've seen a lot of patterns, okay, looking back on life. So a couple things I'm going to tell you is, first of all, as far as getting married, it's not easy to pick the right person. Try to have similar goals about how many kids you want to have, about where you want to live. One of the things I've seen is a lot of female doctors are very bad wives, okay? Because what I've seen in them is very often their main goal is to make money, and they care about making money a lot more than anything else, so they can live in a rich neighborhood in a nice house and be high status. They really don't care that much about having children. I can tell you, I say this after having dated a lot of female doctors, and I know a lot of female doctors. Don't get me wrong, some of them are great moms and have a wonderful family, fine. But I can tell you, a lot of them are really bad. They just want money and to live in a rich neighborhood, and they really don't care about their children, okay? You'd be amazed how often that happens. I see women, they cheat on their husbands, they get divorced for some fling, their families are thrown into chaos, and then I see their children drop out of high school, drop out of college, drop out of grad school, drop out of med school. It messes up the kids. So you really don't want to get divorced if you can avoid it. It's terrible for children. It's much worse for children than people realize. Let's see, what are some of the other things? I say you should date at least a minimum of 1 year before you get married, because women are very good at lying and pretending to be something else than the real self. For about 3 to 6 months they can get away with that. But the longer you're with them, the more it becomes clear who they are and what they are. It's good to get a prenup because it decreases the incentive to divorce. 80% of divorces are filed by women. Okay, and what I've seen too is feminism has really sort of destroyed the quality of modern women. It turns them into promiscuous whores. It comes from Satanism, okay? And then they only care about themselves. They stop caring about their children, their husbands, and their family. I say this based on a lot of experience. Everything I'm telling you is based on experience. It's not based on like something I read in a book, okay? I have been amazed at what female doctors will do to their family. They'll destroy their entire family just for some fling and some whim. I mean, I would have never believed these things until I had personal direct experience with all of them. Okay, let's see. Prepare your house for health for the parents and also for the kids. You want to eat only organic. Try to learn about nutrition while you're young, because most people, doctors don't learn anything about it in school. Reverse osmosis, filter your water, check all the bedrooms from EMF, don't have any lead paint, don't live next to a busy street or a factory or anything like that if you can avoid that. Put your health above other considerations. Like, for example, I knew this family, and they were very wealthy, and they wanted to buy this big estate, but I noticed it was right next to the coal-burning electrical plant. And so I told my friends who were friends with them, tell them not to move there. They're going to be inhaling toxic fumes every day. But they didn't listen to me, and they had terrible health problems, that family. Okay, despite the fact they were super rich. I'm not even going to go into it, but they had terrible health problems. Okay, you want to eat healthy before you get pregnant, because then you're going to be more likely to have a healthy kid. A lot of women, doctors included, they eat poorly, and they get very, very fat during their pregnancies, and they get diabetes, gestational diabetes, and the kids will then often be a heavier body weight to the point where they have to get C-sections. I've seen tons of female doctors ended up having to get C-sections. And it's just easier on them, easier on the kids. So learn about nutrition. You want to eat primarily plant foods, organic only, etc. In my other lectures, I talk about all that. Okay, learn about EMF. We're made to live like Adam and Eve, but keep your indoor heating and plumbing. As far as raising kids, women are a lot better for little kids. Men by our nature, we don't tend to be too interested in getting involved in that. Sometimes we have to, but women are just better than that. I think traditionally women are used to having 10 kids up until the 1960s with birth control. And, in our ancestral environments, the women would hang around with the other women, raising children, by the river, the home base, the nest, if you will. The men go out to forage, to get food, to hunt, to fight another group or something, whatever. But the men are much more roving. We're made for that, okay? Men are much stronger than women. And women's typically about as strong as a 6-year-old boy. You wouldn't expect a 6-year-old boy to do what a man can do physically. That's why it's a joke to think women are going to do physically what a man could do. My mom was like a very high-level athlete, And I remember one time I was sixth grader. I won the village wrestling championship. I was all kind of cocky. Came home, and I don't know what I said to piss her off, but I remember my mother picked me up and threw me on the bed like that, saying, "You behave, or I'm gonna whip your ass." And I'm like, "Wow, my mom could kick my ass." I'm like, but then by the next year, I had gotten a lot bigger by seventh grade, and I knew I could kick her ass if I wanted to. So what I'm trying to say is, and she was a strong woman, and she was strong as me up until about sixth grade. So basically about till puberty. So what I'm trying to say is they're made for that. Women got these little tiny shoulders. They're made to be able to control their sons until puberty, and then the boys are then to go off with the men and learn the things that men do. Okay, but boys grow up very badly when they're raised by single mothers. Single moms, some of them can hold it together, but very few can. What I've also seen is a lot of the women, I've always been with really gorgeous, beautiful women, is they're spoiled. They're so used to everybody being nice to them because they're pretty and also because they're female that they have a very unrealistic view of life. I'm used to a lot of people being very nasty to me for numerous different reasons. They're jealous of me, or I'm from the wrong side of town because they don't like me because I'm half Puerto Rican, or they don't like me because I'm half Irish, or they don't like me because I'm Catholic, or something, okay? But I've had lots of people be very nasty to me for no apparent reason, okay? I've seen gang fights. I've seen all kinds of things, okay? And what I'm trying to say is men come from a world where there's a lot of nastiness and brutality and stuff. So they see it, and they're much more aware of a danger from what I've seen more rapidly compared to the woman. Okay, I've known women, they tell me, oh, they live in a nice neighborhood. And I've got friends, I got lots of lawyer friends, and I have other friends that know what's going on. And they tell me there were 3 murders within 3 blocks of that house last year. Okay, they know what's going on. Okay, those are not safe neighborhoods, and the women are too stupid to realize it. Okay, because they're just oblivious to what is happening. Okay. I've seen these things repeatedly. Okay, men are just much better at surveilling an environment and figuring out is it safe or not. Even though women are the ones that are most endangered, they both have the physical attractiveness that a bad man would want, plus no ability to defend themselves physically. But despite all that, they tend to be very oblivious to dangerous situations, so they're not good at making judgment calls on those sorts of things. So like I said, the women are good for the kids until puberty. Their personality is a little bit more like a child, impulsive, focused on the present moment, very emotional. And this stuff about women being emotional, it is not misogyny. It's the truth. Look at a brain MRI. You can see I can tell a premenopausal female brain from across the room. They got these big giant pituitaries. It's like double the size of a man's. And that's why they got that menstrual cycle. And they're emotional. Every guy can tell you when his woman's on her period, she all of a sudden starts, not all of them, but a lot of them, getting all these emotional, unreasonable demands and complaints and stuff that came out of nowhere. And you're like, what are you talking about? It's like this and like this and like this. You got to look a woman in the eye and check her mood for the day before you can know how to talk to her. Okay, with a guy, he's the same every day. He's got this flat little small pituitary. Okay, all the public schools stink. There's no such thing as a good public school. They're designed to hurt the children, to communist brainwash them, turn them against religion, turn them against their parents. The public school female teachers, they mean well, but it's a totally female environment. I also think that women get an artificial sense of how intelligent they are. And the reason is the public school system totally favors the female. Almost all the teachers are female. Almost everything is feminized, left-wing, politically correct. All of that favors the female mind and personality. The majority of kids in college nowadays are females. It's like 65% of them, which is insane. Because what I'm trying to say is men are much more intense. Men will be willing to work 7 days a week, 10 hours a day. A woman will say, oh, that's not fair, that's not right, blah, 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 blah. They're less willing to do that. And of course, it's because they've got the biological clock. Okay, and a lot of women are waiting until their 30s to have their babies, and that doesn't always work. I know lots of female doctors that are real pretty and never had any kids. They forgot. They're so busy planning their wealth, they forgot to get a husband and have kids. Plus, a lot of women nowadays are very promiscuous. And I look in tons of medical charts. I can tell you there is tons and tons of herpes, okay? So it's dangerous to be promiscuous. Sooner or later, you run the risk of ending up with herpes and all kinds of other problems. And that can interfere with your fertility. It can interfere with your ability to attract a man, etc. So it's good for kids to learn to be not promiscuous, okay? The school nurses and psychologists are the enemy of your children. Tell your kid never to talk to them unless, if they're really sick, they might have to talk to the school nurse. But psychologist is just there to sort of destroy the family. Catholic schools are just as stupid for education on the regular subjects, but they're much better for religious education. Religious education is the most important thing because learning how to behave, how to think, and all that stuff about life is more important than anything else. You can always pick stuff up from the books. If I look at all these old populations like Scotland, you just teach them to read the Bible and they get good at everything else, okay? Parents should read a lot in front of children. That's being a good role model. Usually women don't read much, but at least the father should be reading in front of the kids. Ideally, the mother should too. And I can tell you, I've seen a lot of moms were kind of bad about that. Luckily, my father was my role model. My mom was always talking about how smart he was. And she didn't get mad at him sometimes and yell at him for reading too much. She would smack the paper out of his hands, the newspaper. He used to read a lot. My wife, I would walk around reading a book to get a little exercise when no one was home. And she'd come home, she'd see me, she'd say, "What the F are you doing? Why the F do you read so much?" She would smack the book out of my hand. She says, "What the F is wrong with you? Why are you so autistic?" I said, "I'm not autistic. I'm just a smart person. I like to read. Smart people like to read. It gives me something to do while I'm walking, getting some exercise. And I have to read because that's where the information is, okay? If I want to learn, I have to read, okay?" Also, after she had threatened to divorce me, I realized I'm not going to do stock market or any of this stuff because it'll all get taken away from me in divorce. So I'm just going to focus on being more hyper-educated. As Ben Franklin had said, pour your person to your brain. And because I like doing that too. And I knew I had all kinds of potential for off-the-charts intellectual academic achievement. So why not develop that? I went down many different paths before I sort of ended up in biochemistry and nutrition, molecular biology and toxicology and all this stuff. I spent a long time studying languages, all kinds of things that I enjoyed. Teach the kids study skills and memorizations. You can increase somebody's academic IQ performance by about 30 points. It makes a giant difference. The schools won't teach them. Schools are designed to crank out minimum wage, conformist employees. They're not designed to teach the kids anything. So if you just give them study skills and memorization techniques, that's what school is. It's a memorization contest. They'll be a lot better at school. And they should have some aesthetic motivation. For example, my ex-wife had grown up very poor. In communist Poland, she used to go to the bathroom in a little outhouse, okay? So she was eager to make money, come to the United States and make money. And because of that, she was motivated to work hard in school. But she didn't have an aesthetic, philosophic sense of education. Her attitude was get good grades, then you can get a good job, then you can make money. Versus, I was lucky enough that my father was sort of an aesthetically creative guy in that sense. He really loved reading. He loved classical music. My mother loved classical music and Spanish music. So I got exposed to all that. The big thing, too, was my father was always arguing with his brothers when they would come over the holidays, arguing about books and about history. So I saw as a young man, that's what men do. They read books and they argue about them. And I wanted to be like my dad. And he was also a good athlete. So all of that motivated me, and that was good for me. And I say that because a lot of what I see modern women do is they want to get a divorce from their husband, so they try to get the kids to hate the father. And then if the kids are turned away from the father, then the kids start emulating these TV, social media, sports celebrities, with earrings and tattoos and crazy behavior and all this other stuff. And that's not good for the kid. The role model should be the parents, the mother and the father. Okay, and it's good to read Bible stories and stuff because you remember that. Everything from the public schools is forgotten. I've given other lectures on this, but basically, if you teach history by the biographies of great men, people remember that. If you teach Bible stories, people remember that, okay? But nobody remembers dates in a history class. Nobody remembers grammar in a language class. They specifically do that on purpose to make sure the kids don't learn anything. The best sports are tennis and cross-country running. You can do those things all of your life. Probably the best hobby is drawing because you can draw and you can carry that through the rest of your life connected to whatever else you do. Wrestling's a decent sport. I don't want kids doing anything with head trauma. No soccer. I don't want them doing anything with head trauma. The best musical instrument is piano and guitar. It's good for the kid to be on something like the math team or the debate team because they'll meet other kids that are interested in learning and developing their minds, that are serious about school. After the kids hit puberty, fathers are much better. Like I said, they deal with the world in all its brutal reality. Boys who grow up without dads, impulsive, do poor in school, get into lots of trouble, more likely to drink alcohol, smoke pot, or whatever. Girls without fathers around, they're more likely to be promiscuous, experiment with alcohol, cigarette smoking, all this crap. It's good to make your house a nice place so the kids want to be home as much as possible. You should make the home a pleasant place to be. It's good to have a basketball hoop so the kids can play basketball. They got to have something to do. You can have a PlayStation thing if you want. I used to have a wrestling mat. I made a magnificent house for my kids. I wanted the kids home. I had a wrestling mat in the basement. I had like this half tennis court in the backyard to hit against a wall. I had a full court basketball in my yard. I had a 40,000 gallon in-ground pool, a fenced in giant yard that you could run around. You could play sports in there, a jungle gym for climbing on, an animal enclosure with chickens, geese, rabbits, turtles. I had all this great stuff. And then my wife, she got jealous of me. It was the most popular house in town. All the kids' friends wanted to come over. All the relatives wanted to come over. She got jealous of me, and she insisted we move. Because I put an indoor basketball court. I had an indoor racquetball court, too. I had a weightlifting area, too. I was a wrestler in college, so I wanted the wrestling mat and stuff, too. But she destroyed it all. She just didn't really have much of a sense of family. She pretended that she wanted that when we were engaged, but once we got married, it was clear to me she had some different ideas of like aristocracy and stuff rather than about really having a big family. I've known other female doctors that I dated who said to me, "I'm only having one kid." I'm like, "Well, you want only one kid?" Maybe two at the most. I'm like, "I want a big family." Okay, so we split for those reasons. So yeah, like I said, if the kids are home, then you know what's going on with them. If they're at their friend's house, you don't know what they're doing, and be careful who they hang around with, because whoever they hang around with, that's what they're going to do. If they're hanging around with kids that are serious about school, they're going to be serious about school. If they're hanging around kids that want to go out drinking, they're going to go out drinking. So they're going to take their friends more seriously and care more about what their friends say and do than they are about you. During those years of about 8th grade to about junior year of high school, then hopefully they'll get a little older and wiser. But it varies. Each kid hits their maturity and their difficult points at different times. So anyways, that's what I'd say. So be careful on how you choose a woman. It's kind of difficult to choose a woman because women are so good at pretending to be something different than what they are. So that's why you got to go out with them at least a year to get a sense of who they really are. Do they really want a big family? Do they really want to be devoted to the family? Are they going to be doing other things? Okay. Religion's good for kids. The schools try to turn them away from that. But having a moral foundation, being a fair judgment of situations, having a sense of humor, and also having resilience. Religion makes you more resilient. Being able to set goals, having a short-term goal and a long-term goal. All of these things make you strong so that when you face the inevitable setbacks and disappointments in life, you can bounce back from them. Because if a person's brittle, then they can't bounce back so well. Because I can tell you, I've been smacked down many times, and I didn't like it. But I bounced back from it because I had these good long-term goals and stuff. Let's see. And also, learning reading is really a good academic friend. You can always read when no one else is around. Reading enables you to overcome a lot of problems. It always gives you something to do. It's good to be alone a lot. I say that because some people become dependent on being around other people socially. But if you can be happy being alone reading, I love to be alone and read. I'm perfectly happy to be alone all day long. I like somebody to cook for me at night, but I like being alone. And that will develop your mind. And you don't want the kid listening to music a lot. Music makes people stupid. Because especially the worst is any type of beat music or heavy metal or grunge music. You want your brain thinking, quiet. We're made to walk around in nature, evaluating our environment, looking for food, making sure things are safe and all that. So being alone, reading, being thoughtful, that's really good for a person. The TV destroys kids. Do what you can to restrict their social media. Don't buy them a cell phone until they're as old as possible. Cell phones destroy children. It EMFs their brains. They just want to send a million text messages to their friend. My wife, after she bought one of my kids a cell phone, the other ones were already older by the time cell phones came around, but one of them, the kid stopped talking to me, stopped reading, and that was bad. So anyways, these are some of the things I've learned. The parents should work together, help each other to try to do the best they can for the kids. The kids need both parents. And especially once that kid hits puberty, the mothers become less useful. The fathers are much more important as parents. Don't get me wrong, sometimes the kids need moms. Moms give unconditional love, and kids need that. But they need the objective reality they get from a father. Because a lot of women, even as they're full adults, they live in make-believe, la-la land, fantasy land. I say that based on knowing a lot of women, including women with graduate degrees. They're not dealing with the full deck in terms of dealing with reality. You'd be amazed at how little information is in their brains. I know this. I say this talking to female doctors. They won't know who the local mayor is. They won't know who the local governor is. They won't know almost anything almost anything from a historical book, you know. And don't get me wrong, I'm sort of super educated, but, you know, an educated man should be reading, should know the history of the ancient Greeks, the ancient Romans, the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, you know, the 1700s. They should have a sense. The Romantic era, the Belle Epoque, they should have a sense. What happened in the 1900s? The reason is you have this historical perspective to share with the kids, and they should spend time with their father. A lot of the best developed minds, it was because the children spent time talking to their fathers that they developed this sophisticated intellectual sense that they carry through for life. And you have to build it up, because what I was also getting at was, if you grow up poor, you can be motivated to make money. But if you don't grow up poor, you need something that's still going to motivate you, so you don't just take it for granted that you'll be financially well off. You need to have something aesthetically that propels you to want to learn. And everybody's got to figure that out for themselves as an individual. But being around other people that have it, like a father, it helps them to acquire it. So anyways, I hope you find that helpful with your parenting